Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the ShOUT show. Welcoming everybody back. Thank you so much for people tuned into the show. As you know, September the 26th, morning of, I lost my father, and it took a little bit of time to get things straight. You got to handle your parents' business in life and in death. And I just want to make sure I start out the show by saying, thank you for so many people for your duas and kind words and just remembrance of my father. I really appreciate that, because there's always there's a selfishness to it, because I've been blessed to talk to my dad at least once a day for the last 17 years. And even, before he passed, I talked to him the day before. That being aside, it was just such a wellspring, and I have to say it was inspiring that people just reached out. The world is just so I don't know, jacked up, uncaring sometimes. It just feels like people do things that are malicious to one another, and it was just, around something natural. Now, we say death, but it's natural. As my father used to say, and I agree. He used to say, son, ain't nobody going to get out here alive. I agree. As he used to put it so unpoetically. But my point is, even in this scenario, it allowed people to come together and just appreciate one another. I was burdened with a health issue I'm still dealing with. I don't need to go into that now, but even that gave me a little bit more perspective about our topic today, which is dealing with the loss of a parent. I think, in my own perspective, that I was prepared well, and so when the time came, it was also that I could be a resource to other people. A lot of times you'll find your place to grieve. I think that's really important. You'll find your place to grieve. Some people call up, and I love them to death. You must be going through something terrible. And I said, no, I'm in this really blessed state of just being deeply appreciative for what my father had done for me. And that lesson, along with my mother, that lesson, if you will, it really inspired me to look at humanity differently. When your parents live long enough, you see them go through transitions as well. And I was fortunate to be there for my father's transition. He was there for mine, whether it was conversion, family life, career life, whatever it is, he was there. And we were able to transcend the spot of just being father, son, or mother, daughter, whereby that role was there. But it was always the fact that, I enjoyed for quite a number of years speaking to my father and interengaging with my father as a peer, that we were men. So that's something I want to talk about today. This is not one of those Debbie Downer shows. I really want to take some time and kind of just talk about the spiritual liturgy that I'm in right now. Many of you have gone through this before or will go through it at your time and place, but it is really about visiting the narratives of those who love us before they see us. Let me say that again. It's really just visiting the narrative of those who love us before they see us. I talk about parents and parenting and things like that, but it's a different type of grace when your parents leave you, because when they leave you, it's a bit of a trust that, I told a friend of mine immediately after my dad passed. He said, how do you feel? And I said, man, I just felt like I aged overnight. And what I mean by age is not that I felt old or mean. It's like the conversations that my father and I used to have. He would do me a favor, because when he talked about the past, he could relate to them in the past, and he would give me bits and pieces of it. So I had that wisdom, and he would hold it for me. And when our parents leave, all that wisdom is on us, and it causes us a lot of times to kind of reframe how we think about things, reframe how we talk to people, reframe what our career ideas are, and how we want to see ourselves moving down the line, and it's fun because I think, in some regards, as a comedian, I got to see how my dad performed. Think about that. We'll be right back here on the Shout Out Show, talking about dealing with the loss of a loved one, a parent. We'll be back. I'm Preacher Mars. Thank you guys for tuning in. Right. Okay. All right. I didn't do that well. Okay. Go ahead, take it down, Satana. I thought I hit the transparency thing. I guess I did not. So apologies. So before we get into it, I have an incredible support group. I'm gonna shout out everybody here on the Shout Out Show who reached out. That's when you know you got something special. When you go through something and people respond, a lot of people responded, but I have to say my SOS family was definitely down to hold me down. First of all, I want to give a shout out. I know I'm going not in order, but I want to give a shout out to Sister Satana, who held the ship down. She didn't know when I was coming back. And in fact, she encouraged me to take my time, and I might have to take more time. That's just a fact. But she encouraged me, and it was fun to see the show up. Though I wasn't watching the shows or engaging the shows or producing them, it was fun to see them up, because it just reminded me of things my dad looked forward to. He used to call in and ask, "Where's the link?" Because I get forgetful, and he remember. But it was fun because he remembered all of the people in the Shout Out Show, all of our Shout Out Show families. He remembered the names and what so and so's doing, and da da da. And he knew the function of the show and the personalities in the show. So I want to give a shout out to Sister Donna because it was not an easy position that I put her in. And I have to say, I didn't put her in a position. She stepped up. That's the difference. She stepped up, assumed the control of the show, the narrative of the show, making sure it got out, it got produced. She put out a lot of beautiful stuff on Facebook regarding my father's passing. Because Satana, I wasn't going to do it. I don't do it social media. I'd put out one thing on a Friday reminder, and she took that, and it was good. Satana, I had a lot of people reach out to me I haven't reached out to before, and we needed to have conversations. And a lot of them knew my dad, believe it or not. And I have to give a shout out to my father, the Christian community. They were very beautiful, very generous and affable towards me. Though I wasn't able to attend the memorial service, but it was fun to see how my father engaged in it. And they really, really enjoyed them. If I watched the live stream from Albuquerque, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, it was something he would enjoy. So I'm going to get back here. Thank you, Sister Tana. Thank you. I appreciate it. She's a star, and that's why we have the banner back up. Thank you, Sister Tana. So let me get a shout out to Sister Reed. Sister Reed, thank you so much. We laugh all the time, and I know we have a very, very long-standing food tradition. But you know what? It was fun. And I got reprimanded several times by my father by showing your food on the show and not sharing with people, which he thought was funny. He said, "What you kind of mean?" He said, "It was funny." But I'm like, "Pops, it was all in good fun." So thank you so much. Trying to make sure that I'm okay. And that's what it's about, brothers and sisters. We have a platform, but it's a platform to a platform, So thank you so much, Sister Ree, and shout out to Derek and shout out to Brother Juwan. I hope you guys are doing wonderfully. Next up, my little brother, Wale Masalano Fatula Johnny L. Thomas, better known as JT, always holding his big brother down. Make sure I'm in the right spot. And it means a lot. we had a scenario, and I don't really get to talk about JT's dad that much. But I actually met JT's dad when I was in college. He worked as the maintenance supervisor at the YMCA where my dorm was. I actually met him before JT, like 4 years before I met JT, and we all three of us had a relationship. And when Mr. Thomas passed away, it was a surprise. And last time I was in Milwaukee, I asked JT for a favor, and that favor, and it meant a lot, JT. Just so you know, I said I really haven't gone to visit your father. There's a thing in the Quran. I might be paraphrasing, Satana. You can correct me if you need to, but it's a thing, the idea that you visit your loved ones in the grave, and then eventually your loved ones will visit you in the grave. And we went there. We went there, and I had to reintroduce myself to Mr. Thomas. Pray for Mr. Thomas. I apologize for not being there, but he was a good man. And so, in that space, you have a wellness of understanding good men in your life. So, JT, thank you so much for that. Next up, Sister Cristiano Santiago. Sister Santiago is always checking up on me. We appreciate you. I'm doing better with my health. Alhamdulillah. I just got to get that rest. I realize I have a lot of stuff on me, and I got to pump the brakes every once in a while. But I have to say thank you, Sister Santiago, for checking up on me. I'm going to tell everybody I got emails and texts. I didn't respond to everything. I had to kind of step back a little bit because, like I said, I was part of it this morning, but part of it is like, man, I just really had a deep, deep appreciation for where I was, and to be prepared as a man, and dealing with things and how I deal with people, comes part and parcel for when you watch your father, you by your father's side. So thank you so much for that. Bilal Salahuddin, my main brother, man. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and your queen sister. My dear sister, I hope you are taking care of her. Sister Sonia, I hope you are taking care of her, and peace and blessings. Thank you so much for the invite out for November the 5th. I did email her back about the driving movie. I will be out of town. I'll be in Tampa November the 4th, and I'll be back here. I'll be in Houston on the 5th. All right. I hope you're doing well. Next up, my main man, Altaf Rashid, better known as Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, a Canadian envoy to the show. My brother, I appreciate you, man. Much love, much love. And hey, man, beautiful email, brother. I know you'd have to do that, man, but you reached out. That really, really touched my spirit, man. And I just want you to know that, it meant a lot. It meant a lot. We go through these adjustment periods, and we really have to say, at times when you're vulnerable, you have to speak on it a little bit, because you find that there's a lot of comfort in saying you're vulnerable because people going through different things. I see my little cousin on here, Donald Foster. We did a whole show on my big cousin, Donald Foster, better known as Nook. And because of COVID and all that stuff, I couldn't attend the funeral, but I watched his funeral live stream. And the barakah of my cousin is listening to his children and grandchildren speak about him in such a way that was just glowing. That and people don't even understand this. My father and his father lived in the same house in Washington, D.C. They lived in the same house. And I think the thing that was beautiful is like, that family unit back then, back in DC, it called something that's really, really interesting and I have to say unique and organic in our family. But, the same way I talked about my cousin, though he was older than me, but you grow up watching. He was a heck of a basketball player. He loved baseball. He come to the comedy shows. He was one of my that cousin. He would come to the comedy shows and we would laugh and have a good time. And he always made it easy for me not to have to justify what I was doing. He let me make jokes and things like that. And my father was the same way. Lil Don, good to see you, man. Peace and blessings to you and your family. All right. All right. Sister Sonia, and of course, thank you so much. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sister Satana, thank you again. And peace and blessings, Sister Santiago. You lost your your granddad and grandma in 10 months. Whew, that's tough. So I don't know how you're managing, but we hope that you're managing that space and there's peace in your heart. And, there's a little resolve when you find different ways to love people when they're not there. So think about that. All right. Where are we, sister? We're 15 minutes in. Okay. Dealing with the loss of a parent. And I'm going to tell you what one of the most immediate things I thought about. At my age, I really thought about the fact that my father is probably in the last rung of men that can tell me essentially how I got here. Like, we have history books, but you have witnesses. Like, you may have a mother or father that's in the late 70s, late 80s. I want you to understand this is why you have to take particular time to sit with them and visit them. They are the last living history or oracle understanding of your struggle. And when I say struggle, I don't mean just the civil rights struggle. I mean the aspect of what it is to be human in a world that don't want to treat you as human, to have dreams in a space where people don't want you to have dreams, to be effective where people don't want you to be effective, and understand the thing that drove them. My dad was born in the 40s, so he understood racism and things like that. And it's really, really understandable to this point that they make choices, that they found power in their choices, not in privileges or laws that are given to them. They made power in their choices. And in a unique way, particularly African-American community and the Native American community specifically, the parallel is that we do have a very, very nuanced understanding of why we serve our elders. I spoke about this at the height of COVID, and we talked about all the travails that COVID was causing. The thing that was interesting, I was reading an article about the Native American response to COVID, and it was a very traumatic response because the youth in the tradition are used to being up underneath the elders, but they couldn't be up underneath the elders due to health risk. And they talked about how that disconnected or disengaged a lot of the youth because this is a tradition. Well, I'm going to encourage that when we deal with the loss of a parent, that we take a little bit of time and establish a little bit of a microcosm of what was their tradition. Like, what was their tradition? Like, my father had 101 sayings. I could do a whole stand-up act just on my dad's sayings. The way he used to say my mom's name, he never said Mary. He said Murray. Murray, Murray. I'm like, my mom is a man. No, she's a woman, but he would say Murray. And just the street corner. We don't have that anymore. To have people that go on the street corner and people congregate around those folks because they know they're going to hear a good story, or they know they're going to get a good laugh, or they know that, that person up there, that person, my grandfather, boy, that boy lying, and it was the familiarity of the culture. We kind of lose that. At 55 years old, I can say this, and JT could probably say this as well. We are not listening to other men give us advice at this point in time. We've lost a whole generation of men that give us advice, that give us counsel. And when I say give us advice, give us counsel, this is what I mean. This is life advice because they watched us our entire lives. We have a comment up. This is Tana from Sister Mona Islam. Let's see. I was just going through my father's deceased father's documents at the bank before this show today. Also looking at items my deceased grandmother gifted to my mother. Can't believe how on point this topic is as I'm pondering the passing of parents. It's very difficult. Grandparents too, especially when you're young. I truly appreciate the healing Finally, you talk. Thank you so much. I think they say sharing is caring. But here's a fun thing you could do when you deal with the loss of a parent. Pictures. Pictures. Um, my father took a hell of a picture. My father's wedding picture is flawless. When he's in the service, flawless. And every once in a while, you can take your picture from when you were 17, 18, because I totally felt like my dad and I had nothing in common. We didn't look the same, da 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 da. We didn't speak the same. Of course, I'm incorrect. And we joke about this, but I don't joke about it. This is a revelation. I used to say I'm slowly turning into my grandfather, and I had already turned into my father. But there's a point of grace that I want people to talk about when we're talking about losing a parent. That they, in many regards, I used to say our parents stick around till they feel like they can trust us with us. That they can move on effectively. I don't have a swan song, but once I knew the condition with my father, and we talked as men. And I said, no, no BS. This is what it is. It does not look good. My father came to me on his terms to say that this is pretty much it. But we had talked about it. And he said, you got to be thankful for the time that you had. So you have to be thankful for the time that you had. And he said something that was really cool. He made me feel like, we had a working relationship on being father and son. And he said, son, damn it, boy, we had a good run. So catching that thing that we had a good run, that whole idea that we had worked together, to be a team, like you work with your mother. And I want to encourage people, work with your parents. They gonna say some things. They're gonna drive you crazy. They're gonna say some things. Don't touch this. Leave that alone. Show up for it though. Understand that they've been doing this a very, very long time. Take your ego out of that. Don't eat out of the pot. Things like that. Don't eat out of the pot. Sit up straight. Blah blah blah. Because brothers and sisters, when they're not around, that's when you're gonna miss the most. All right. So let's take a well-needed advertising break from Convenient Urgent Care, because evidently I didn't take care of myself. Go ahead and run that ad. Everybody's busting my hump. We'll be right back here on the Shout Out Show. Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just got to hear Don't Get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe, and your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
All right, I want to give a special shout out to my main man, Jazz at Convenient Urgent Care. You got to use a telehealth program. If you get sick, people they have a great telehealth program. They can speak with you. Can't come into the office. I've used them twice. I had upper respiratory infection, and then this latest kabobble that's come through. Is kabobble a word? I just made it up. I can make it up. This latest kabobble, and being able to have medical attention. Some of us are old school. We don't get medical attention until we're in the emergency room, and people going clear. So I'm just trying to be proactive as much as I can. So listen, I want to make sure I close this out on a bit of a good note, which is when you're dealing with the loss of a parent, there are a lot of things to be considered about what the relationship you had, the engagement, the quality of engagement, and all those things. But when I say being a parent and parenting, which is the next expression, parent is, of course, one, but the active verb is parenting. And all the things that come in with parenting, like counseling, like disciplining, like loving and caring and modeling and sacrificing, are the things that we really need to look at in terms of traditions that they left for us and we leave for our children. Because it's a bit, if you will, it's a bit of a quality, if you will. I said that I felt like my father and people in his age group, when they leave, there's a void because their sense of struggle, like your grandmother's sense of struggle, your mom's sense of struggle is totally different than what we have. We had to usher our parents into how to use a computer and sign on to the ShOUT show or use YouTube and all those type of things, or even with the live stream. God, I was the day of the memorial. I'm trying to help people live stream. I can't get it. Oh my gosh. I'm like, YouTube. It was it was an exercise in patience, but it was also an exercise of love. Because when they had us, there was no YouTube. There was no Facebook. The opportunities that we have, they didn't have. And it required a different type of excellence, a different type of creativity. I used to watch basketball with my cousin Don. And it was fun watching him because Don really knew basketball. So what was interesting, sorry about that. What was interesting watching him do basketball is like, he knew the fundamentals. And it was like, wow, we used to sit and watch people got paid millions of dollars that didn't have fundamentals. So think about that. There are people walking around, all the glitz and glory. They don't have fundamentals. And sometimes we see them go through life. If I pick up another paper and see about somebody who went on the wrong path and they're paying $500,000 for a lawyer, well, you've got that much money, you haven't figured it out yet. That's parenting. That's parenting. So the wrap on this, if you will, is pretty simple. While our parents are here, the dispensation we need to show them is just patience. And if you can hold on to that patience long enough in a meaningful way, it will evidence gratitude. Whereby when you see your mother, you see your father, you see your grandparents, or the people who are raising you inside, before they say a thing, you'll smile, and that smile is thank you. So everything that comes after that is 0+, meaning that they know how you feel about them. They feel the same way about you. They might not tell you. They may fuss, but that's their language. That's the love language. Pick that up. Don't sit in that chair. If I tell you one more time, these are things that make us children, but they're also things that allow us to enjoy people that love us and raise us to be successful in this whole parenting space. Okay, that's my show for today. Love, life, live, love. This is Preacher Moss. This is the SOS. Inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.